All right, if you're in Slovakia on a business residence permit, you're going to want to listen up. The ground is literally shifting under our feet, and it's time we talk about a really critical strategic switch, moving from being self-employed to a full-time employee. The rules are changing, and believe me, getting this right is more important than ever.
So let me just ask you, straight up, is that business visa you're holding, your Živnosť, a ticking time bomb? And look, I know that sounds dramatic, but with these huge legislative changes coming down the pike for 2025, it's a question we all really need to be asking ourselves right now. So let's get into exactly why.
And this right here, this really gets to the heart of the new reality. You've got two paths. The hard path is sticking with the business permit. Think tiny quotas, like 700 a year, and having to apply from outside Slovakia. Then there's the soft path, switching to an employment permit, which you can do from right here, inside the country, with zero quota. The smart choice is becoming crystal clear.
So here's how we're going to break it all down in this explainer. First, we'll look at why this is so strategic. Then a quick status check. Do you even need to apply? We'll walk through the process, cover the single most important rule about your license, figure out how to survive that anxious waiting period, and finally, look at what to do in your new life as an employee. Okay, let's dive into section 1, the strategic switch. Why does this matter so much right at this very moment?
Well, the core of the problem is this thing called disguised employment, which people here call the švarc system. You know what I'm talking about. You're officially a self-employed živnostník, but you're working just like an employee. You've got one main client, you're on their schedule, using their stuff, and you need to know the authorities are really starting to crack down on this. And the risk of just doing nothing? It's severe. We're not just talking about losing your trade license, no. We're talking about your entire residence permit getting revoked for fraud because your reason for being here is no longer considered valid. And that, well, that could mean deportation. The solution is to get ahead of it. Line up your legal status with your real work situation by switching to an employment permit. It's the safe, quota-free way forward. So before you start frantically digging for documents, let's just pause for a second. We need to do a quick but crucial status check because honestly, you might not even need to go through this whole song and dance. This is your decision tree, and it's pretty simple. Scenario A. If you're here under temporary protection and odidinits, and you also have a trade license, just stop. You already have free access to the labor market. You do not need the foreign police for this. But if you're in scenario B, holding a standard temporary residence for business, for podnikanie, then yes, you absolutely must proceed with a formal change of purpose application.
Okay, you've confirmed you need to apply. So let's get into the nitty-gritty of the process, starting with something I like to call the invisible document.
Before you can even think about submitting your application, your new employer has to do what's called a labor market test. They report the job, wait 20 working days, which is basically a whole month, and then they request a confirmation. Now here's the kicker, and this trips so many people up. You never see this document. You never touch it. The labor office zips it directly over to the foreign police.
But this whole invisible step is exactly where a massive, and I mean fatal error can happen. It's a classic bureaucratic mistake. I call it the delivery drop. Pay attention to this. That confirmation document, it gets sent to one specific branch of the foreign police, the one your employer tells the labor office to send it to. So if they send it to the Bratislava office, but you book your appointment and show up in Trnava, guess what? Your application is dead on arrival. It will be rejected. You've got to coordinate this tiny detail perfectly with your employer. All right, now we're at what is possibly the single most important strategic decision you will make in this entire process. I'm talking about the suspend, don't cancel rule. Just look at the difference here. On one side, you're literally cutting the rope you're standing on. If you cancel your trade license, it's final. This is so risky because you basically leave yourself with no valid reason to be in the country while you wait. But if you just suspend it, you create a safety net. The license is just sleeping. If, for whatever reason, your employment application gets rejected, you can just wake it back up, reactivate it, and your original business residence permit is still valid. It's your plan B. So you did it. You submitted your application. And now comes the hardest part, the waiting game. I know this period is filled with all sorts of questions and anxiety, so let's talk about how to get through it. The million-dollar question, can I work while I'm waiting? Well, the answer really depends on your background. If you graduated from a Slovak university, amazing. You can start your new job the day after you hand in your application. For pretty much everyone else, though, the answer is a hard no. You have to wait for the final decision and your new residence card, and that can take up to 90 days. This timeline kind of lays it all out for you. And here's the most important thing to remember. The moment you submit your application, your stay here in Slovakia is legal. It's called an authorized stay. So even if your old card expires during this waiting period, you are covered. Then comes that decision period, up to 90 days of waiting. And finally, you get that magic SMS telling you your new card is ready for pickup.
But, and this is a really critical warning, if your old residence card does expire while you're in that waiting period, your legal status is only valid inside Slovakia. You can't leave the country or the Schengen area and just expect to get back in. So please plan any travel you have very, very carefully. You made it. The SMS arrived, you've got that new card in your hand. What a relief, right? But we're not quite done. Let's cover the final steps to lock in your new life as an employee. Okay, don't put your feet up just yet. You're on the home stretch, but here is your immediate checklist to get everything tied up. You got to visit your health insurer, go back to the trade office to fully cancel that license you so smartly suspended, submit a medical report if the police tell you to, and of course, get a copy of your shiny new card over to HR. And as you're taking off those last few items, just remember this. For the foreseeable future, this move is a one-way street. With all the new quotas and mandatory waiting periods, trying to switch from an employee permit back to a business one, it's become nearly impossible. So, as we wrap this up, here's the final thought I want to leave you with. You've battled the bureaucracy, you've secured your employment. That is a huge win, and it's absolutely the safe, strategic move for the next few years. But in doing so, have you also closed the door on your entrepreneurial future here in Slovakia for good? It's definitely something to think about.